and welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of HTFC, HTF's new soccer show. I am your host, Edgar Rodriguez.
And I'm Patrick Deleon, and today we've got a very fun show for y'all. We've got Champions League up first, Match Day 7 preview, and the final day of the league phase, Match Day 8 preview. And joining me for that first segment is Andrew Greig. And right after that, we've got a manager preview or review. Who's doing good? Who's on the hot seat? What's going on across the leagues in Europe? But to kick things off, Andrew Greig, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk Champions League with you guys. Definitely an exciting round of matches, so definitely want to cover that. And then going into, as you mentioned, possibly the most important match day of the ones we've seen so far.
Absolutely.
So,
it was exciting.
And before we get started, though, what jersey are you wearing today?
Yes, so I am once again repping my beloved Arsenal, this time with the 2020-21 home shirt. This was COVID-era Arsenal. This was the lowest of lows, man.
It's probably my favorite Arsenal
beautiful.
shirt,
You think of Aubameyang, Lacazette.
Yeah, exactly.
You think of the North London Derby that season.
terrible kit.
I think it's
Beautiful. Don't hate on it. Don't hate on it.
We
We went more flashy than usual for our home shirt. And by the way, last episode I said my retro shirt was from 88 and 90. It was not. It's from 92, 94. So just wanted to make that correction.
Off, but that's okay.
Just a few. What are you wearing?
So this one, pretty recent, 2023, 24.
Yes.
Manchester City third.
Love that shirt.
I love it.
It's nice.
It's just really, I think it was really cool. So I
nice.
found it on eBay for like $10 and I got
$10?
it. So. eBay, my friend. It's always a good site.
Andrew, you hearing this?
Yeah, as a United fan, I want to hate so badly, but it is very clean.
It is a nice shirt, yeah.
Beautiful shirt. All right, Patrick, do you want to kick us off today? Champions League.
So
lots of action to look back on.
Yeah, so we've had a very interesting round of games for this match day.
Yep.
PSG, Manchester City.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't expecting this. 4-2. But here's a mind-boggling thing. Manchester City scored 2 goals in 3 minutes, the 50th minute and the 53rd. 3 minutes later, PSG get one back, and then they score another 4 minutes after that.
Unbelievable.
So by the 60th minute, within a 10-minute span, they're at 2-2. And then from there, Manchester City just fall apart. PSG capitalize on all of their mistakes, win 4-2. I mean, look at the stats.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
And
City were completely outplayed here.
And at halftime, Andrew, we were kind of fearing a 0-0 because a lot of times these big games don't live up to the hype, don't live up to the expectation.
First half really didn't live up to that.
It didn't, but second half, Grealish and Haaland, like you said, Patrick, opening the scoring. But man, PSG at home, surprising result. I thought City were going to go there and win.
100%. You're just expecting a Manchester City team obviously Pep, he's still there, and Haaland, all these great players. You're expecting them to find a way, especially going up 2-0, in the span of a couple minutes. You're okay, City, if they can just hunker down a little bit, keep it out of the back of their net, which they can't seem to do this season.
Not this season.
And obviously let up 4 goals by the end. It's very unfortunate for a lot of City fans.
And this is a huge game of survival as well. Now City have a real chance. They're in a must-win situation. They also have to rely on so many other results to go their way for the final match day in the league phase to even make it to the playoff spots to qualify to the round of 16.
They sit 25th at the moment in the Champions League.
2
points shy of Stuttgart, sitting in 24th. But I mean, who would have seen this coming?
And
no one.
This is a team that's reminiscent of the Triple Crown team, where they won the Premier League. They obviously they won the Champions League. One of the better teams you were ever gonna see. And then obviously they still have Haaland, they still have Foden, and they're just not playing to that level anymore. And then you just not accustomed to seeing a Manchester, they're 5th in the Premier League table right now. This Manchester City team has been wildly disappointing.
And we've seen how much Rodri has hurt them, being out for the whole season. Yeah. They have no cohesion. Yes, of course you have Haaland. You can rely on him to score 1 or 2 a game, but
that's not enough.
But not when you're leaking 4 or 5. You know what I'm saying? And they started 2025 well. They scored 20 goals in the first 4 games. We saw them beat Ipswich 6-0, and everyone was like, "Oh, 6-0. You see that score, but it is Ipswich."
Come on.
With all due respect,
you
go away to PSG, who usually are not, the top of the Champions League. Of course, in Ligue 1, they're always a lock. But in the Champions League, they always seem to struggle. Even this season, they've struggled. And City somehow find a way to, once again, fumble a lead and a 2-0 lead at that. Unbelievable. But looking forward to Match Day 8,
Yes,
Patrick.
So my preview for Match Day 8 is also going to be a pretty fun clash. It's going to be Inter Milan versus Monaco.
Yes.
So Inter Milan have been doing pretty well recently in previous, most recently, obviously winning against Sparta Prague 1-0.
Look at
a lot of
1-0s.
1-0s right there. Like 1-0 win, 1-0 loss, 1-0. Like, what's going on there? Monaco also are doing pretty well for themselves this season in Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a pretty close battle to see who can really stay. Inter obviously are trying to stay in that automatic qualification spot for the round of 16. Monaco are just a little bit shy of that and sitting at 13 points. They're not far behind. This is going to be a huge class in terms of seeding to see what happens for the knockout phase.
I think, before you say something, Andrew, I think Inter, one goal conceded this whole Champions League. Monaco going into this are going to be the underdogs. But look, this past week, they beat Vela 1-0. They've beaten Barca the first week. How do you see this one going? I think Inter are the favorites, though.
Yeah, 100%. You'd have to think that Inter are the favorites, but I just think that this table, it's so close. That when you're looking at from
this new format,
there's 3 points that separate third to, let's see here, 13th.
Yeah.
So obviously this next match day is going to be extremely important. I think that Inter's going to realize that going into this game, and if there's any indication, probably maybe a 1-0 win is on the table here.
That's a pretty nice bet if you're going to put money on it.
Exact score plus maybe plus 200
there
at this
you go.
point.
Exactly. Yeah. But Inter Monaco is going to be interesting. Inter are 3 points safe in that top 8. It's likely that they'll finish there, but not a guarantee whatsoever. Right. Now, let's recap the craziest game, not just of this match day, not just of
arguably the entire European season.
I think so. Mm-hmm. And maybe even going back to last season. Yes, we had some great games last Champions League, but this game, you guys, 5-4 Barcelona. Barca were 3-1 down at one point. They were 4-1, 4-2 down at one point. And then all of a sudden, that second half, I don't know if it was the rain coming down in Portugal. I don't know if it was something in the air, but Barcelona somehow in the 96th minute, they couldn't have left it any later. Rafinha on the break from a Benfica free kick, I believe it was, or corner on the other side. And they let him cut in. The keeper stayed on his line, which I think was a mistake for him. And Barca somehow escaped with the 3 points.
But we're going to talk about penalties here for a second.
Was it a pen?
There was some controversy in this game? I don't believe so. I think it really should have been 4-4.
Yeah.
Or
on the balance of the game.
Arguably, it doesn't turn out this way. Had that specific call not go Barcelona's way.
Yeah.
It's always one of those cases like what could have been, So it was just, I don't know.
This game does need some investigating.
But it was still an extremely entertaining match. It's not what I expected.
Oh my goodness.
At all. Because I sent you a picture at halftime. I was like, oh wow, Barcelona down 3-1. It's over.
Game over.
It's wraps.
That's what you would think.
Yeah. And then I check back in 45 minutes later and I see it's 5-4. I'm like, what just happened? What did I miss?
What
did I miss?
No one could have seen this coming again. No. It's one of those things, just like the last game. But man, Barcelona are having a very strange season, but in the Champions League, they find a way to win.
Yeah. Like you were just saying, finding a way to win. Out of seven matches so far, they've won 6 and only lost their first one. What a game. What can you say about this game? There's Barca. You have to say that even if it wasn't a penalty, you can say that they deserve to win this game. 74 possession, more shots on goal. Like Benfica converted their chances, and when they needed to, they scored. They scored 4 goals on 5 shots on target. So obviously a great showing for them. But just all the stats are in Barca's favor, and then you just assume that going into this game, Barca was a heavy favorite. And with their Champions League play so far, they should have been. And then Benfica put up such a great fight, but leaving it to the very last minute.
96.
Ballon d'Or?
Rafinha? Hey, I think right now, Andrew, that's not a bad shout. I think it's between him and Salah now. Patrick, what do you think?
Salah.
Yeah, but Salah. I think Rafinha
he's climbing in that conversation though.
He's having an incredible season.
But yeah, sure. Okay. And it's a lot of good individual performances in this game too. Pavlidis with a hat trick for Benfica. Lewandowski, Rafinha with a brace, and of course Eric Garcia coming in clutch later on too.
Araujo with the own goal.
Yeah, but it happens. It does happen. There's not much you can really do there. But I think this is a really fun game.
Oh my goodness!
That I'm ashamed I missed out on.
No, you did miss out. 9 goals.
Yes.
But man, unbelievable match. Looking forward to match day 8, though. Stuttgart PSG. Now, yes, we already talked about PSG. They got the 3 points at home against City. But this matchup going to the last match day is 22nd against 24th. Again, PSG, yes, they're in that playoff zone at the moment. But Stuttgart, tricky side. We see them. They've won their last 3 in the Champions League. Just safe again, but it's another close battle to fight for those last playoff spots. How do you see this one going in Germany?
Ooh, I mean, because they're both pretty much on equal footing here. They're both on equal footing, and
it's 10 points.
It's just one or the other. Like one of them has to. It's like a win or go home at that point.
Yes,
it's not even a matter of draw and you're fine. No, win or you're out. Basically, because you have to look underneath the table.
Yes.
There's still teams that can just leapfrog you by a little bit. No team is safe at this point.
That's what I was going to say, Andrew. Like, they'll be looking behind for first the likes of City and Zagreb. Who knows what's going to happen?
I think both of them, these teams know that it's essentially win or go home. When you're that close to the bottom of the essentially like what would be like a relegation, the cutoff point. Yeah. You can't afford to lose this game, and both teams know that. Obviously, it's unfortunate for PSG that they have to go on the road, but I think with the Stuttgart team, it's a little hard to tell where they are because obviously they're beating up on like maybe the bottom of this Champions League, but then when you play teams like Atalanta and they're down 2-0, and then like you see PSG, who just beat City 4-2 and looks pretty convincing doing it. So I think again you have to give the lean to PSG and like just naturally with how big the brand is. Like a lot of people are just going to favor PSG, but both of these teams know that like it's essentially win or go home. And I don't even like a draw for both these teams could be bad. Like you don't
draw does no favors.
You don't know where when you're that close to the bottom of the table, 3 points behind you could be the difference. So
absolutely.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that this is going to be one of the more interesting games because one of these teams is probably going to be going home after this round.
That's pretty safe to say. Which game caught your eye, though, Andrew, of this last match day?
Yeah, so the game that I wanted to talk about was Real Madrid and Salzburg. And less so for the actual content of the game, but more so for just the brand of Real Madrid. You know,
Brian likes that.
Every single Champions League, you just know that they're going to find a way. And unfortunately, this season, it's been a little bit rockier.
It has.
Yeah, it has been a rocky season in the Champions League. Like, they're, closer to the middle of the
It's very unusual for them to be around there.
But they're going to find a way, and especially against, like, those teams where you expect them to win. Like, a 5-1 result here isn't the crazy. It's not surprising in the slightest, and obviously they dominated this game. Mbappe was able to come out early, 70% possession. Their goalkeeper only needed to make 2 saves, 14 total shots. It was just like a all-out domination by Madrid.
Pretty much.
Unfortunately for some of like other fans in this league, and just Champions League fans in general, I feel like a lot of people are tired of seeing Madrid just on top for such an extended period of time. But what can you say? It's Madrid, and the players that they have. Come on, Mbappe's on this team now. They're at the top of La Liga right now too. They're supposed to be pulling off results like this.
Unbelievable, especially when you have Rodrigo scoring a brace, when you have Vinny scoring a brace. That was vintage Vinny last night. An incredible performance for Real Madrid, but expected, right? 5-1 at the Bernabeu. Nothing too surprising there. But which one are you looking forward to next week?
Yeah, so the other half of El Clasico, you have Barcelona versus Atalanta, and just two teams that are like at the top of like they're playing like at the top level right now. Obviously, Barca hasn't lost in 6 matches in the Champions League.
That's
and
right.
then obviously they're near the top of La Liga, and then another result against Benfica yesterday. And then obviously Atalanta, I think they're at 7th in the Champions League right now, so they've been pulling out good results as well. So just one of the games that like I'm looking forward to most. You obviously have some cutoff battles that you want to see, and then some of like the middle field. But this is like top Champions League. This is like a game that you're gonna like kind of want to bookmark, and maybe like a 1 goal difference, if not maybe
like,
a draw, because like these teams don't really need it at this point. I feel like these teams are relatively safe. Like Atalanta is like a little bit closer to like the playoff zone than Barca is, obviously, but I mean, it's just a game that I'm interested to see.
Let's look at these score lines on both sides for a second. Like
high scoring.
Could we actually get a high-scoring game between these two as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely on the table.
But don't be surprised if it turns out like a 1-0 or
No,
something.
of course.
It can either be like super clinical or these teams are just scoring left and right.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Barca in their last 5 matches hasn't scored under 3 goals in the Champions League. And then you look at besides Celtic, they've scored 6 against Young Boys. Obviously, it's Young Boys. I know them all too well as a Manchester United fan. We lost them a couple years back in the Europa League. Very sad.
That's right.
And then obviously they being up against. Don't even let me pronounce it, bro. 5-0. Come on. Like, what are we doing here? So I'm just excited for this game.
Atalanta's gonna go there believing that they can get the 3 points. We saw an unlucky loss.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way, against Madrid in Italy. But this game, I'm also looking forward to it. All the games next week at 3, by the way, all at the same time. Champions League next week is going to be crazy.
It's so crazy because now, obviously, with this expanded format too, instead of 32, it's 36, right?
Yeah.
36. So more games to watch, and it's all at 3 o'clock. It's so hard to keep up with everything that's going on.
18 games going on at
show,
once.
Patrick and Andrew Golasso show. It's going to be crazy. Last word to you, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for these matches. I think that, like, obviously Barca, with the fact that they are like clear, around the rest of the table, I don't know if they'll be trying as hard as somebody like fighting off maybe a
That's
play
a fair
up.
point.
Yeah, so this game could be a little bit underwhelming, but I'm excited for it personally, and I'm just excited for, obviously you guys just mentioned it, 18 matches in one time zone. It's just gonna be seeing goals left and right.
It's going to be unbelievable. But stay tuned, though. That's enough for Champions League today. We're going to talk about managers around Europe, who's on the hot seat, who's done well this season. Stay tuned.
Hello. So I guess the crew's getting ready for the next segment on one of our amazing shows. I'm Nick Cohen, host of season 20 of Hitting the Field, and let me tell you about those amazing shows. On behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we offer here at the network. Mondays at 4, HTF Bets goes live for season 10 with 3 gamblers that, although it may not always seem like it, are here to help us all earn a little bit of extra money while we watch sports. Diego Ortiz, Tyler Brownrigg, and Andrew Greig's ball knowledge and fun personalities make this show a fan favorite. On Tuesdays, you all loved it, so we brought it back for season 2. It's Girls Got Game, hosted by Frankie Noble, a show blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next is everyone's favorite sports podcast, The Combine, hosted by who other than Ty Patton, an easygoing, conversational, and technical podcast dropping Wednesdays, also on Spotify at The Combine. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for the network's main show, season 20 of Hitting the Field, hosted by me. Here, we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure. We love some football, basketball, hockey, F1. We also cover baseball, soccer, and we even have to show the UFC love sometimes. Penultimately, TGIF, because Friday is nighttime, hosted by Kathleen Moore and Matthew Bracker. Season 8 of Nighttime is where you'll turn to for all things March Madness, UCF sports, and other collegiate events. We're ending with something brand new. HTFN has never had 6 shows running at once. Also filmed in our new podcast studio is HTFC, hosted by Edgar Rodriguez and Patrick Deleon. Football, or soccer in America, is the most popular sport in the world. Across multiple leagues and cups, soccer is a year-round sport, and HTFC is your news source to stay updated. Also on Spotify, by the way, at HTFC. Outside of our 6-show roster, be sure to tune in to our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog, run by our vlog squad of Brianna St. Jean, Michaela Croker, Ashley Rowe, and Ben Huber. Make sure to follow us on our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and X to stay updated on all HTFN news. Remember to subscribe right here on YouTube, leave a like and comment. And with that, I think we're ready for your next segment. I'm Nick Cohen. Thank you for your continued support, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Everyone, we are back for segment 2, and joining us is already a familiar face on HTFC, Robert Hudson, wearing the wrong London team again, but we'll let it slide. How are you, my man?
Look, I mean, as if Arsenal win the Premier League this year, London is red right now.
There's a little red on that Yokohama logo.
This is my favorite Chelsea
It's
jersey.
clean.
The
It's
Yokohama
clean,
is iconic.
It's
back
clean.
in the prime days of Chelsea. You get the Yokohama
Hazard
sponsors.
days back then?
Yeah.
Wow. That seems like so long ago,
I
man.
know, right? It really does. That's crazy.
Bro, you guys used to always beat us up back then. Thankfully, those days are gone. Anyway, let's move in to this second segment. We have a good one, Robert. And actually, shout out to you because you were the one to bring this up. We're going to be doing a manager review because this season there's been so much going on all across Europe. And no better place to start. We can both laugh at this one, Robert. Ange Postecoglou, Tottenham sitting 15th. What is going on with Big Ange?
We're going to keep this in London today. I
Yes, we
mean,
are.
Tottenham is in a crisis.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say. Yep.
And look, I mean, they're sitting at what, 15th?
15th.
They're only 3 positions above the relegation zone.
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy to think about.
Spursy.
Man, sitting with 24 points. Hey, when do you really ever see this happen? Like a bigger club, be so low to the relegation zone. I mean, you have Manchester United just above them as well. But man, Ange Postecoglou, he has to figure it out or else he's gone. Like, I don't see him lasting the month, to be honest.
Wow. I think the fact that they are 1-0 up heading into the second leg of the Carabao Cup,
I think that's
as we've mentioned,
that's the only
saving grace
right now for him.
They are still alive in the Europa League right now.
They
too.
are.
So they do have a chance at European glory, but domestically, you need, in a club like Tottenham, part of the original Big Six, you need them to stay up there. Now, as a part of the Big Six, they haven't really accomplished anything.
Right.
But I think you can pin a lot of that on Daniel Levy and the ownership as well. It's not completely down to Ange.
It's not.
And there's a lot out of his control with the injuries. I mean, they have nobody on their back line, and their squad is so shallow.
It's hurt them. It's hurt them a lot.
There's no depth.
You look at who's on the field in their lineup card, and you're like, I haven't seen this name in ages, or they just lack the skill with
experience.
their,
And it's
hurt
again,
them.
injuries, it's not something that you as a coach can really do anything about in terms of like preventing them. You can do as much as you can in terms of with your fitness trainers and everything, but man, it's also part of your responsibility to do the best possible with what you have, because that's just how soccer works.
Right.
That's just any sport, really. You just got to make do with what you have. And right now, he is, I think, still underperforming because you're still Tottenham. On paper, you should still have a squad that at the very least, should be sitting mid-table, not 15th.
Right. And injuries happen, man. City have had them. Arsenal is experiencing a crisis. Saliba, Saka out. And it is something you have to navigate. But unfortunately, for Big Ange, he has not been able to. Now, you mentioned potentially a month maybe left in his tenure. Who knows how much Daniel Levy is willing to give him at this point. They have Leicester City at home. They've lost their last, 7 or 8 matches in the Premier League. What if, I'm going to throw it out there, Leicester go there and take the 3 points? Are we even waiting for the Carabao Cup? Not at that point, right?
Because
You can't.
you're losing to almost, I would say Leicester gets relegated this year.
Most likely.
If you lose to them, and especially right now, when you're already on the hot seat at home, I think he's gone. I think
it's difficult, but I mean, you can also he has things he can point to in his favor. Right?
Yes.
He has the injuries.
Yeah.
Patrick, I know you were looking at it earlier. What's their goal differential in comparison to the other clubs?
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
you look at all of the results throughout the season. Right now, they're at plus 10, and they're in 50.
I don't think that's ever
For
happened.
example, West Ham, right above them, minus 16.
Yeah.
Everton, right below them, minus 10. They're at plus 10,
Unbelievable.
so they can score goals. They have the capability of scoring goals, but man, they are bleeding in the back line. They are conceding just unbelievable amounts of goals.
The worst thing they could do is put confidence in Ange, go through January saying you're our guy for the rest of this year, and not sign him any replacements in January. He needs defensive reinforcements desperately.
But are any coming in? It seems unlikely.
But it also feels like managers, when it comes to Tottenham, they don't have enough time. They need to really instill that winning mentality or get the players they want for Tottenham in general.
And that's what they've been missing, Tottenham. The winning mentality. You don't have any success. It's hard to, rely on anything.
I think,
and it's a tough situation.
I think if we had to start rating these guys, I'd put them on the pretty hot seat right now in Tottenham
Yeah,
on
I
that
think
month
so.
timeline.
Listen, if they do not pick up the win, I'm telling you, at home, Daniel Levy, he's going to force him into a decision. And don't be surprised if it's to sack him. Let's go straight to the top of the Premier League now.
Completely
Arne
opposite side of the spectrum. Arne
Man.
Slot, dude. I mean, what can we really say that we haven't said already about him?
Look at that smile.
Like what I think he's already blown. I think he's already blown away all the expectations people already had heading into the season. Because, okay, yes, the departure of Jurgen Klopp a surprise, not, I guess kind of a surprise, but it's also like a big blow. Like, oh man, Jurgen Klopp, he's been one of the best managers in the Premier League.
They thought the world was going to end.
Constantly head-to-head with Pep Guardiola, right? For years.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, Arne Slot, come and replace. I was honestly expecting them to have kind of just a transition year. Okay, let's just play for Champions League, make it to the top 4. Maybe not really compete for the title, but man, they 15 wins, 5 draws, 1 loss, sitting at 50 points, 6 points clear of second place Arsenal.
With the game in hand.
With the game in hand, Arne Slot, he's done an absolutely phenomenal job.
And this season, he just has them firing on all cylinders. Every time Liverpool step on the pitch, of course, apart from that little blip at Anfield against Forest, where they dropped that game 1-0, you just think it's inevitable with Liverpool. They're so good, especially with a guy like Mo Salah.
Who's arguably playing the best soccer of his career.
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't argue that. And Robert, when you look at their next games, Ipswich Town at home, you would think they're going to continue. Yeah. And then in the Champions League, they have a real potential
unbeaten
of going
in Champions League.
8 for 8. They have PSV at in the Netherlands. It's going to be it's always a tricky match away in Europe. But, I mean, man, he's gone in there, wasted no time at all, and he has a real potential of winning some serious silverware at the first time of asking.
I think a lot of it comes down to not only the situation he walked into, but also the luck he's had with injuries, right? With Jurgen Klopp, it was always Liverpool were up in the top 2 for the first half of the season before injuries tanked them. But right now, he has his whole roster to still work with, and he walked into a situation where a manager wasn't fired because they were doing poorly. He walked into a club that was having success under Klopp, and he was gifted that by Klopp retiring.
And let me piggyback on that you talked about injuries. With Klopp, we know it was the rock and roll football. It was the gegenpressing. By the end of the season, they were tired. It's not debatable. They were heavy-legged at the end of the season. Now with Arne Slot, you're seeing a more controlled, a more... I wouldn't say Pacific style, but now they know when to go gegenpressing and they know when to keep the ball, pass it around, and control the leads that they've been having. You added that stat, Patrick, 599 minutes without conceding in the Champions League. I mean, you face them and it's kind of like it's over before the whistle gets blown, but it's been that type of season and they are heavy favorites for the Premier League.
There's no way they fumble the Premier League. Surely. We've seen it before, but like, no, like, come on. They're just too good right now. There's no way it happens. Wow. I can't see it happening.
I can't either, honestly, as much as I would love to see it because we would be right there to take advantage of it. Liverpool this season have just been too good.
And you're also talking about those next games. They're only going to increase that lead, playing Ipswich Town and the bottom barrel
Let's
teams.
hope not. Let's move on from Arne Slot and move to arguably the best manager in club football, at least in recent history. He has been experiencing something that he has never experienced before. He went on that 13-game stretch where he only won 1 match. And this season, 5th in the Premier League, 25th in the Champions League. Again, something he's never experienced before. Of course, at Barcelona and Bayern, it was smooth sailing the whole way. Yeah. His City career, smooth sailing up to now. What do we think? He's showing a bit of a lack of adaptability here. With all those injuries, he's stuck to his guns, and it's faltered.
And the thing is, I think teams have finally started to figure him out, and City in general. Yeah. For years past, obviously, just total domination. This 100%. Year, complete 180. And I think it's because, of course, the injuries are a big thing. But teams, I think, finally, especially you look at the smaller clubs and how well they're doing in the Premier League this year, I think they finally have stepped up and realized how to beat the way he plays, how to counter him. And clearly, it's causing all of these issues that we see here. Manchester City, we're not used to them seeing 5th, which is, to me, is like, that's so low. We're not used to them seeing
unheard
that.
Of.
And, every other week, it feels like they drop out of those European positions. They always drop to 6th or 7th, then they climb back up to 5th or 4th, and they drop back down again. Yeah. It's really weird.
And Robert, we've seen teams like Forest, like Newcastle, challenging for the top 4. Yeah. They've taken advantage of City's lack of just capitalizing on their opportunities. They have Club Brugge next in the Champions League. It's no guarantee.
No.
No, I mean Club Brugge is one of the top clubs in the Belgian Pro League.
You know that very well.
Yes. Yep. My club isn't in European competition in Belgium.
Not this season.
No. I mean, we're sitting in 9th, which isn't very good. But,
oh boy.
Where when you look at Pep Guardiola and how his team is performing, it's not so much that his style of play is diminishing, but the players that play under his style
100%.
are. You look at these people that he has on his roster, the average age is somewhere in the 30s.
Aging. Yeah, they're all
getting
aging.
old.
A very difficult style of play. And not only is he sticking to his guns with these players, he's never had, as you mentioned, this adversity before. He was under prime Messi at Barcelona. He was under Bayern Munich's domination.
Lewandowski, Ribéry, Robben. I mean, my goodness.
You're under a really smooth sailing, and now he's finally having that challenge, and he doesn't know how to adapt his current roster because his roster is so old that they're struggling to adapt with him. And then the injuries on top of it, it's just compounding these issues where even in the PSG game, that they're up 2-1, Kovacic takes the ball down in midfield, takes 2 dribbles and dribbles it right into PSG.
Too easy. And you would have...
Gives it right up. It's that midfield and it's the injuries, and they just can't play his style anymore.
And this is something you haven't seen for City under Pep. Of course, they won for the first time in English football history 4 Premier Leagues in a row. It looks like that era might be coming to an end. Let's go to Spain now. Hansi Flick. Strange season, like I said earlier, for Barca. It's almost like they're having 2 seasons in one. They won the first 7 games in La Liga this season. Now they've only won 1 of their last 7 in domestic play. But at the same time, they're second in the Champions League. What is going on, Patrick, with Hansi Flick?
It's such a weird season because you remember how well they started off at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And now we look back just like 2 weeks ago. They beat Real Madrid dominantly in the final of the Supercopa de España, right?
Right.
And then we come back to league play, and they're still just. They're falling apart. And I don't really think they're not going through an injury crisis either right now, which is the weird part. You know, compared to most of these teams that we've been talking about, they've had some sort of issue with their players, right? So to me, it's almost like what's going on maybe behind the scenes that we just don't know about. But at the same time, it's, are they just starting to feel the fatigue after being on top for, you know, the first half of the season? Now they're behind Atletico and Real Madrid. You know, what's going on there? I'm not sure. 7
points behind Real Madrid in first place when they had a huge lead at the start of the season.
And they not only destroyed Real Madrid
twice.
Yeah.
So they had that
Brian.
lead.
Sorry, Brian.
But it's true.
It could be that fatigue because, again, Hansi Flick loves that high defensive line.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a lot of pressing, a lot of pressure. And now that the Champions League has ramped up, they have those matches. Do they have the squad depth? But I don't think that the recent form in the domestic league is representative of him as a manager or Barcelona as a club. I think it's sort of the backroom issues coming to light. And with those backroom issues, I would have even classified Xavi as having a successful tenure as a Barcelona manager.
I don't disagree. I mean, it ended badly, of course. He ended on bad terms, but I mean, there's, it was just a tough situation. And Hansi Flick, proven manager in finals. We've seen that again this season. But I would just label this as a very strange season. We'll see how they do in the Champions League. Of course, they're one of the favorites now.
Could be they're just focusing on Champions League more because they're in a better position than, I guess, maybe expected to be. So they could be prioritizing that. You know, we see that all the time. But it's just a matter of time, I think, and we'll figure out to see what's going on near the end of the season.
We will. But now let's focus on a manager who gets a lot of hate, a lot of criticism usually. Diego Simeone, El Cholo Simeone in Atletico Madrid. Man, this season they're enjoying their stuff. They went on a run, Patrick, of 14 straight, a club record, and for the highest paid manager in the world, the longest tenured manager in La Liga. Atleti are having themselves a good season.
Oh, yeah, and they've been really fun to watch this year, especially,
which is rare to say.
Considering it's Simeone ball, that's very surprising to say. And they were leading the league at one point. Now they're 2 points behind Real Madrid, but
close.
Still super close. I think they're also it's going to come down to the final month or so of La Liga play to really determine who's going to come out on top. I think it's going to come down to Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, end of the year. I think Barcelona, unfortunately, just because of the slight dip of form, that's enough to take them out. And we all know how much how often leagues can be decided by 1-2 points. I think, unfortunately for Barcelona, they are out of that conversation now. But Diego Simeone very much well and alive, hoping to kind of reclaim that first place. Julian Alvarez having a great year as well. Antoine Griezmann, of course, as always. I always like the guy doing really well as well.
Such a great season. And with Julian Alvarez as well.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the Spanish league has really been a tale of two halves.
It's been great.
At the start of the season, Barcelona were absolutely electric, as we discussed. But as you're moving forward, you're seeing Real Madrid has also gone on a run. I think it's kind of their last 11 they've won out. And now that they found their form with Mbappe and Vinicius and Rodrigo and all of these coalescing into one powerhouse, Atletico is finding that, right? They may have started a little bit faster than Real, but it took Julian Alvarez several games to get going as well. People were talking about him being a massive dud those first 3 weeks.
And now he is on a tear this season. He's been so impressive. City have been missing him. Especially when Haaland wasn't producing those games. Maybe just a Julian Alvarez off the bench or something like that would have helped them.
But now City is spending the money on Omar Marmoush.
Oh, that was confirmed. Kusanov as well. Interesting. City are doing their business, but I think Simeone under contract until 2027. I think, Atleti cannot replace him.
How long has he been there?
Since 2011.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Unbelievable. He is a god in Atletico Madrid. But Patrick, let's give the last word to you. We have a minute or so left. Nuri Sahin, of course, you love Dortmund. You love your Dortmund, but this season it's been rough.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about next would be Nuri Sahin with Borussia Dortmund. And, man, Dortmund, right, they're sitting at 10th in the Bundesliga right now. And for Dortmund standards,
not good.
Oh, no, dude.
Not good.
And look, he came in to replace Edin Terzic, right? Edin Terzic was... I had a kind of a love-hate relationship with him, too. Dortmund made it to the Champions League final. They did great. But the thing is, even domestically, still, they were just... It's Dortmund.
It's so hit or miss.
It's on paper you have such talented guys. You have but they always leave. Most recently being Malen, right? It always hurts my brain a little bit because on paper this is kind of like another Tottenham situation. I will always relate them to Tottenham because
it's stuck with you. I love it.
On paper, both teams when they're fully fit and healthy, they have good players. On paper, they should be competing for the league.
Consistently,
right? Or at least doing good enough to play Champions League. And right now, he was brought in beginning of the season, didn't even last the whole season, obviously, because he got fired on the 21st. Goodness. I woke up and I was like, oh man, he's gone. So now, they're going to have an interim coach until who knows if they even find a coach this window right now, or who else? I can't think of anybody that's free right now. That's the thing.
We mentioned this on the No Sports Show. Shout out. Robert. Eric Ten Hag. Imagine that.
No, dude. No.
Imagine that. But I saw the rumors swirling.
I know, but
that would be a terrible decision. I'll be the first to say it.
Well, I guess here's the thing.
It's a possibility now.
Here's the thing. Maybe Ten Hag wouldn't be such a bad fit just because Dortmund can be seen as almost like a developmental club.
I don't know.
And the Bundesliga is not as competitive as the Premier League, but I still wouldn't want Ten Hag to be there.
No, not after what happened at United.
But I couldn't. It wouldn't be crazy if they do decide on that. Just
I wouldn't
because
be surprised.
He would, I guess, fit the culture, the vibe of the club in general. You're always shipping off players to better teams anyway. Let them win something because they're not going to win anything here because they can't do anything. And so it's just man, Sahin. I like Sahin as a player too, so I was really excited for him to come in, take the coaching role. I was like, okay, hopefully maybe another Xabi Alonso kind of story. Cesc Fabregas, Como, right?
Of course.
But no, it has not turned out that way at all.
I mean,
nowhere near. Robert, last word.
I mean, Dortmund is similar to Tottenham, as you said, and the way I've always described them is cosmically average.
Yeah.
You go through the high points and the low points, and they're consistently just there. You had those few campaigns after Klopp where they may have competed with Bayern to get the points tally, but I mean,
Those were the days, huh?
Bayern was dominant. I mean, Jurgen Klopp was the last consistent, successful manager at Dortmund, and they have really struggled to find a replacement. And that's not going to change until they change their sporting director's path and the whole backroom style of how they attract and keep players.
And the whole philosophy of the club, which is will not be done overnight. But you heard it here first on HTFC. Eric Ten Hag to Dortmund. Boys, thank you so much for joining us on Season 1, Episode 2 of HTFC. Robert, once again.
Thank you for having me back.
Brilliant stuff. We'll be back next week. We got a big Champions League day on Wednesday. So much to recap. We might need the whole 30 minutes to run through all those games.
We might have to.
Don't be surprised. Join us next week. Take care.